Hey guys, Jonathan Edmond with Wave Beach Realty down here in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Hadn't done one of these videos in a month or so and wanted to follow up with everybody and anybody using my Myrtle Beach Home Source website or my jonathanedmond.com website. Again, I want to thank you for continuing to use it to search properties to keep tabs on the market. If you have any questions about the site or any specific properties at any time, feel free to just reach out on the website, or you can always call me on my cell phone directly, 843-957-3872, or email me at jjedmond92@gmail.com. A couple things I want to talk about today real quick. The current market. So what I'm seeing right now in the current market, obviously December was like a weird month with the you had the election that had just passed. I know a lot of people were waiting for the election results before they continued their real estate searches. That's behind us now. Christmas is behind us now. New Year's is behind us. We're gearing up for 2025. What I'm seeing right now is buyer activity is starting to slowly pick back up. Properties that I have listed on the market are starting to get a little bit more showing activity, more consistent showings. So I do think now that the election's behind us, we're settled into 2025. Everybody's past the holidays and really gearing up for the new year, which is pretty typical. You'll start to see the market pick up. Two things I don't see changing, and these are basically my 2025 predictions. Right now, like I said, the market's picking up, activity's picking up, properties are starting to sell a little bit quicker. New home inventory starting to sell a little bit quicker, mainly because all the incentives being given by these builders, whether it's your D.R. Hortons or any of these other big builders around here that are large scale building. Um, 2025, what I don't see happening is interest rates dropping. So all the people that are out there waiting for interest rates to come down, I do not see that happening this year. I think 5.5 to 6.5 is going to be pretty typical for the foreseeable future. I don't even know if it'll change in the next couple of years. So if you're waiting for interest rates to go down, you're probably going to be sitting a while. What I highly recommend is finding, if you're trying to save money, I would be looking for deals on existing properties that have been sitting on the market longer. I would not be looking for rates to just come down and then all of a sudden you can get a good deal on a house, because if the rates were to magically come down to 2, 3, 4%, whatever that number you're waiting for is, everybody else is going to be doing the same thing you are, and that is waiting for that to happen. As soon as that happens, boom, everybody's going to be jumping on properties because they seem more affordable now, and that's just going to raise the property values right back on up. So you're really not going to end up getting a deal that way. Uh, I'm buying properties actively right now. I'm buying properties to rehab and resell. I bought a few rental properties in probably two condos I bought in the last year, just to use for long-term rentals, because the rental market's still pretty good in the Myrtle Beach area, short and long-term for that matter. Let's see what else for 2025. I do think home prices will just kind of stay where they're at. I don't see them really going down. They might drop a couple of percent, nothing crazy. That's going to be on supply and demand and how much the market picks up versus how much inventory there is. But I don't think you'll see prices go up on property. So if you're a buyer, yes, you do have time to shop and find properties and find deals. If you're a seller, I think you've just got to lock in and realize that the market has changed, and what you thought you were going to get for your home right after COVID when the market went nuts is not what you're going to get for your home now. Even my property value on my properties has dropped. It just is what it is. That's just part of the ebb and flow of the market. So I think 2025 overall is going to be a good real estate year, but I think we're just going to see a normal market. 5 and 6% interest rates, steady sales, steady purchases. Still a lot of people influxing into the Myrtle Beach area. We're still one of the most growing metropolitan areas in the country. I don't think that's going to change this year. We still got very reasonable taxes. Our insurance has gone up a little bit. We're in a coastal zone. That's to be expected. But our cost of living overall is still very mild to moderate. And then obviously our climate's very moderate, which a lot of people like, especially my clients from the northeastern United States. Snow and taxes will get you down here pretty quickly. Last thing, I know that you've probably seen in the news a lot of changes to the way real estate works now. The way the news spins it, they basically are saying that the days of buyer agents are over. That's not true whatsoever. So I believe the only difference is now you're not allowed to disclose on your listings what the commission being offered. Let's say if I go list a property for 5 or 6% or whatever I'm charging to a seller. Now I can negotiate what commission I pay the other agent. I can choose not to offer a buyer agent commission. So even though technically sellers were always paying these commissions, now it's just written differently, so it seems like sellers aren't paying it. When the government steps in because of a lawsuit and starts making regulations, they actually make things more complicated than they need to be. That's across the board, not just in real estate. So basically, now if I'm going to make an offer on a property and I'm representing a buyer, my buyer agency agreement that you'll sign with me for me representing you says that what my commission will be up front. Like, hey, I charge 3% to represent buyers. Now, if I show you a property, you say, hey, Jonathan, I want to make an offer on this. I call the listing agent and I say, hey, I'm showing your property at 123 Main Street tomorrow. What's the commission being offered? Let's say they say 2%. We're only paying 2% to a buyer's agent. Okay, that's fine. I could choose to say, okay, well, my commission is 3%, so as the buyer, you're going to have to pay me the 1% additional to now get the 3% that's in my marketing agreement. So I do put 3% in mine as what I charge, but I put on my agreements that I'm going to negotiate that fee directly with the listing agent and their seller to try to get what I believe I'm worth for what I do and with the services I offer. So long story short, nothing's really changed except the wording and the way we handle and the way we negotiate commission. So if I charge 5% to list a property, I have to put in my contract what I'm willing to offer up to a buyer's agent, and my seller signs off on that. So let's say they're like, okay, Jonathan, you're charging 5%, you can mark it up to 2.5%. Well, if an agent calls me and I feel like I can negotiate them lower and say, hey, I'm only offering 2%, I can keep that difference now. So it's all negotiable now, but real estate commissions have always been negotiable. Now, a lot of agencies locally and across the country now, if you're a buyer, if they're not being paid 3% or 2.5% or whatever they feel is what they're worth, they will charge you the difference. So what I can tell you at Wave Beach Realty, what I'm doing, if I don't think if I'm not good enough to negotiate my value to the listing agent and their seller to bring a buyer to make a solid transaction to make it smooth for everybody, I probably shouldn't get 3%. So even though I want 3%, if a seller's agent's only offering 2 and I can't negotiate 2.5 or 2.25 or the 3 that I want, I'm not going to ask my buyers to pay any difference. I got licensed in 2013. Today is January 6th, 2025. To date, I've never had a buyer pay me $1 to represent them, and I intend to keep it that way. So, the long story short, if you're one of my buyers, nothing has changed for you as far as the real estate law. You have the agreement you sign is worded a little bit differently, saying that we can charge these different fees to you, but Wave Beach Realty, or at least Jonathan with Wave Beach Realty, will not charge you a fee. If they're only paying me 1.5 or 2%, if I'm not good enough to negotiate my value with the seller, say, hey, if you want me to sell your property, this is what you're paying me, then I don't deserve that money, and that's how I feel about it. So I'm not going to charge buyers any additional money for me to represent them, and that will not change. That's my business strategy going forward, and that will not change. As far as sellers, obviously, I run my own firm here. I don't have the franchise fees and all the high fees that your Remaxes and your Century 21s and everything else have. So I can be a little more negotiable on what the total fee I charge to you as a seller. So you're going to get your savings there. I'm still going to compensate buyer's agents because buyer's agents are needed. They add a lot of value, especially in a market where people are moving from other states. They don't know the area very well. They don't know the flood zones. They don't know the areas to avoid. They need somebody to guide them, and I don't think they should have to pay for that guidance. It's the sellers that want to sell their properties. So, like any service, if you're trying to sell something and you want somebody to do that for you, you're going to pay for it, and you get what you pay for. So, anyway, nothing in my business is changing. 2025, I think, is going to be a good real estate year. Don't expect to see prices go up. I do expect to see activity go up, so you're going to see a little more competition for homes. I think you're going to see properties start to sit on the market a little less time, especially for the sellers that now understand that the market has changed and they're not going to get these top end amounts that they were getting, when everything was going crazy at 3% interest rates and people were bidding on properties and going 30 grand over asking. That's not happening. We're not in that market anymore. But if you have a good agent who markets the property correctly and markets it to the buyers that are coming from the right areas, you shouldn't have a problem selling your property, assuming that you listen to your agent's advice of where the pricing should be, because they're pricing it to make sure you sell it, not because they just want a quick dollar. They're pricing your property, a good real estate agent rather, is pricing your property to make sure it sells timely, you get the most possible, and you get the maximum exposure. And overpricing your property will terminate all of those things. So I do not recommend just trying to get greedy and overpricing your properties if you're a seller in the Myrtle Beach area. Anyway, any of my buyers, sellers, if you have any questions, reach out to me anytime. I'm an open book. I'll be glad to talk with you about it. Market conditions, specific properties, specific areas, what I see with the short and long term rental markets, any other predictions I have for 2025. And as things change, obviously, I'll be willing to speak with anybody and answer any questions. So again, Jonathan Edmond, Wave Beach Realty here in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, coming to you on this nice 50-degree January day. Reach out to me anytime, JJEdmund, EDMUND92 at gmail.com, or you can reach me on my cell phone anytime, 843-957-3872, 843-957-3872, and you can call or text me on that number. I look forward to working with you guys. Hope you had a great Christmas, holiday, New Year's, and look forward to working with many of you in 2025. Thanks.